the similarity statement for number 1. The black is the green. Now let's do the same thing for number 2. Again, I can outline the large one in blue. And the next one, and again, I can say this one is red, and then I'll do this one in green. And again, or maybe I'll just show it in the gray. All right, so for the blue, I'm going to go from Z to X to Y. So I'm going from the hypotenuse to the shorter leg. I can do the same thing for the red. I can go from the hypotenuse to the shorter leg. So I'm going to go from the hypotenuse, which is going to be Z to Y to the shorter leg, which is U. And then lastly, the black one, which is the green one or the black one. I'm going to go from the hypotenuse, which is Y to X to U. And that would be the similar triangles here. Now, for this one, what we could do here is use the similar triangles and match the corresponding sides. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to actually use the proportions that were taught in this class. If you did not start out by putting everything in the same order that I did, so for example, if you started here, like somebody said they started with, instead of that they put LKJ. If you started out the blue one in that order, then just make sure your red and your black match. Again, it didn't matter if you started the same way I did, but just make sure that the red, every corresponding angle matches with the red and the black. So again, I'm not going to double check the ones that you guys are putting in the chat. I'll double check it if you want me to later, but right now I'm going to keep going. Again, you could have had different orders, but then again, the red and the black needed to match the original blue that you put. All right, so let's try number 3. Now again, I'm going to use the two proportions I'm going to do in this entire lesson or this entire worksheet are going to be these two. I'm going to do the hypotenuse over leg, leg over Sohal, and then the other one was segment 1 over altitude, and then altitude over segment 2. That's how I'm going to work all of the problems on this worksheet. This is what I'm going to expect to see you use on the quiz on Thursday. So let's go ahead and take a look here. They want us to find the altitude. Now, in order to find that altitude of X, if you went ahead and used the similar triangles, that's fine, but you need to show me the proportions and which triangles you're matching them with. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to add in another variable here, and I'm going to find one of my segments first. So I'm going to say that this little piece of the hypotenuse is going to be Y. This is going to be my segment 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this proportion first, this one, and then after I get the two segment pieces, then I can go back and I can find the altitude. So I'm going to find the Sohal here. So I'm going to use this leg, and then this Y that I just identified and added in is my Sohal. My hypotenuse is the 10. So I'm going to do 10 over 6, 6 over Y. 10Y equals 36. I'm going to divide by 10. And Y equals 3.6. So that's my segment 1 now. To find segment 2, I'm going to do 10, and I'm going to subtract 3.6 from it, and I get 6.4. Now I can use the other proportion. And I'm going to do segment 1, which is going to be 3.6, over my altitude, which is x, equals x over segment 2. I get x squared equals 3.6 times 6.4. And when I multiply that, I get 23.04. I need to find out what x is, so I'm going to square root it. And once I square root that, I get 4.8. So that's how I'm going to expect you to use is the proportions I taught you in the notes. Let's try number 4. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look for one of the segments. I'll call this segment Y. This is segment 1. This one will be segment 2. So I'm going to do first the leg, the hypotenuse over leg, leg over SOHAL. So 29 over 20, and then 20 over Y. Now you could have done the 21, and then you could have found segment 2. Again, it doesn't matter what you identify as segment 1 or segment 2. So 29y equals 400, divide. So 400 divided by 29 gives me this crazy long decimal. It gives me y is equal to 13.793. I'm going to round it to 13.8. So that's what this one is. So then now I'm going to take 29, subtract 13.8 to get the length of segment 2. And this one's 15.2. Now I can do the other proportion. And let me go ahead and move this. And I'm going to do, for here, I'm doing segment 1, 13.8 over altitude, altitude over segment 2. So x squared equals 13.8 times 15.2. When I multiply those, I get x squared is equal to 209.76. I need to square root that. So x is equal to 14.48, and I'm going to round that to 14.5. For number 5, I'm going to do the same thing. So again, I can say that I'm going to look for this little piece, or you could have found this one. You could have called this Z. It really didn't matter. So this is going to be my SOHAL. So I'm going to, again, do hypotenuse, which is 17, over the leg, which is 8. And I'm looking for that piece of the hypotenuse, that segment of the hypotenuse adjacent to that leg. So I'm looking for that Y. So 17y equals 64. Divide by 17. And that little piece equals 3.764. I'm going to round it to 3.8. So now to find this little piece here, I need to do 17 minus 3.8. And I get 13.2. So this little piece is 13.2. This one is the 3.8. So now again, I'm going to do the same proportion. I'm going to do segment 1 over altitude, altitude over segment 2. 3.8 times 13.2. And I get 50.16. Square root it. And you get 7.08. I'm going to round it to 7.1. For the geometric mean, you're going to leave your answer in simplest radical form. So here, to find a geometric mean, you're going to take the two numbers, you're going to multiply them and square root it. Now, you can either do a factor tree, or this one actually, if I multiply this, 3 times 12 is 36, and I know the square root of 36 is 6. But let's say you didn't see that right away. Instead, you're just going to keep it like this, factor it. Actually, 3 is prime, so bring it down. The 12, I'm going to make it 3 times 4. And then the 4, 2 and 2. These all come down. Now remember, these are all still under square roots. So then now you're going to look to make pairs. I have a pair of 3s. A 3 comes out of the radical. I got a pair of 2s. A 2 comes out. Everything that comes out, you multiply back together. I got the same answer whether I multiplied them and got the perfect square or if I broke them down. Now the next one is not a perfect square. So let me go ahead and factor that one. So for 14, I'm going to break this into 2 and 2. And the 4, 2 and 2, and 14, 2 and 7. So now I'm going to look for pairs. I have a pair of 2s. A 2 comes out. No pairs here, so multiply them back and leave it under the radical. So 2 square root 14. Then number 8. Going to factor this as well. So 10, 2 and 5. 24, it doesn't matter if you do 2, 12, 3, 8, 4, 6. Let me do 4 times 6. These are already prime. This I break down into 2 and 2 and 2 and 3. I'm going to go back, look for pairs. I got a pair of 2s here. One of the 2s comes out, and then I got another pair that I can match up here. So then another one comes out of here. These guys did not pair up, so multiply them back and put them back under the radical. So 4 square root 15. For number 9, this is where we're going to use those proportions. Now this one's easier. I could actually just do Pythagorean theorem here, because notice you've got a little right triangle here. So I'm just going to do Pythagorean theorem. 24 squared plus 32 squared equals x squared. 576 is 24 squared, and then 32 squared is going to be 32 times 32 is 1024. I'm going to add 1024 plus 576, I get 1600. Square root it, and x equals 40. Number 10. This is the one where I'm going to use this proportion. I'm going to be doing hypotenuse over leg, leg over SOHAL. So my hypotenuse is 12, my leg is 6, and my SOHAL is x. 12x equals 36. Divide by 12, x equals 3. And then number 11, this one I'm going to use the other proportion. I'm going to use this proportion. So this is segment 1, segment 2. This is my altitude. So 18 over x, x over 8. X squared equals 18 times 8. This one actually, when you multiply it, it's a perfect square. X equals 12. These are the types of questions you're going to probably see on your quiz, are questions like 9, 10, and 11. Whereas before, the other ones up at the top, 3, 4, and 5, you actually had to do 2 separate proportions, and you may have to. All right, let's try the last one, number 12. So here, let me go ahead and label what's given to me. So here I have AB, it's 38.4. So is this one. It's got the same congruency mark. And then I have BC is 72. So that's congruent to that. And then I also know that the length of this entire segment here, AC, the whole thing is 81.6. Now it wants me to find out what the length of this crossbar is, BD. So what we can do here is we can use any of our proportions that we may have. So let's take a look. So we've got a bunch of right triangles here. So I'm gonna use this triangle here. Let me outline it. I'm gonna use this right triangle. And I'm gonna use my proportion. I'm gonna be doing the hypotenuse over leg, leg over SOHAL. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find this missing piece. Remember the 81.6, this is the whole hypotenuse. So I could say I'm gonna find this segment or this one, it doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and do the 72. So I'm gonna do hypotenuse, which is 81.6, over the leg, which is 72. And I'm gonna be looking for this segment. We'll call this X. So I'm gonna do 81.6X equals 72 times 72. So once I multiply 72 times 72, I get 5,184. I need to divide that by 81.6. And I get X is equal to 63.529. I'm gonna round this to around 63.5. So then now what I can do to figure out this piece, I can do Pythagorean theorem. Or I could subtract 81.6. Let's not do Pythagorean theorem. We could also subtract this. And 81.6 minus 63.5, 18.1. So if you want to use another proportion, you could also do segment 1 over altitude, which we can call this Y, and then Y over the segment we just found. We can do it this way as well. Once I multiply 18.1 times 63.5, I get 114935. I need to square root it. And I get Y is equal to 33.9. It's 90, so I'm going to leave it with a tens place. So then now this side is 33.9, and so is this side. So I got to double it. So times by 2. And the final answer is 67.8. Now I could have also done Pythagorean theorem once I found that piece if I didn't want to use a proportion. And that would have been fine as well. So again, sometimes there's different ways to go around doing these. But again, when you're doing the quiz review tonight, I need to see the proportion or the Pythagorean theorem, whatever you're using, to find the missing pieces. So that is it for the practice A. So now what you're going to do is you're going to work on that quiz review. Again, just the answers are given to you, so at least you can check to see if you've done it right. And then tomorrow we'll go over any of the questions you want to see worked out. That's it.